Super excited to be here at Saba House, New York with Mickey Ashmore, founder of Saba. It's been about
10 years. 10 years. 10 years.
10 years.
When did we meet?
Probably 9 years ago. I think you were 1 year in. You're in your Saba House up in the West Village. Was that also double as your apartment?
East Village, yeah.
East Village doubles your apartment.
Yeah. Lived in the back, sold shoes in the front.
Come a long way.
Yeah.
I think that this space here is about 4 times the size of that entire space.
Yeah, and I don't live in it. I don't live in the back.
You didn't live in it?
No, I don't live in this one.
No. Oh, you've upgraded. You have a separate home. Fair enough. So I am thrilled to be here at Saba House, New York. This is our first Brooklyn Chronicles. It's a series that we're doing to introduce the people who love our brand or follow our brand to the people who inspire us, the people we love, the people who help motivate us to do what we do. Just the energy around Saba is something that, we aim to embody something similar. But stepping back 30,000 feet, East Village, 10 years ago, exactly 10 years or a little short of?
A little short of, 9.5.
We have 10-year anniversary plans?
Working on it.
Working on it. All right, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of that. Regardless, just take me back 9 and almost 10 years. Take me back 10 years. What's going through your head? Obviously, Saba was born. I believe you were living in Turkey at the time, or just prior to that?
I just moved back from Turkey. I lived in Istanbul for 2 years before starting Saba. I worked for Microsoft.
Okay.
Moved back to New York and was working in a finance company doing investing. Great job, but I didn't love it.
Yeah.
And I would say my motivation to start Saba was mostly independence. Okay. I wanted to just live my own life and chart my own course. And obviously one way to do that is starting your own business. And I wanted an opportunity to express myself. And I had, while living in Turkey, been gifted a pair of shoes that I wore all the time and really loved and thought, my friends were asking about them. I was giving them as gifts, making them as gifts. And I thought, I think I could build a business selling these shoes. And that's what we did.
Okay. So 10 years, you're back here in New York. People are asking you for these shoes. And how did you source shoes out of Turkey predominantly? I know you do some building in Texas now, manufacturing in Texas now.
Well, the shoe I was gifted was made by a family that was already making shoes, and they were it's based on a traditional style of Turkish slipper called a Yemeni shoe. And there are a handful of families that still produce them by hand, traditionally using, traditional methods in leather from Turkey. And so I found one of those families and we partnered. And so that's the shoe comes from the origin of where it's always been made, which is a town called Gaziantep, which is on the southeast. It's in the southeast of Turkey, down along the Syrian border, and it's one of the oldest cities in the world, and has a history of trade and craft and commerce and leatherwork.
I follow, and actually quite recently, I believe you just returned from Turkey.
Yes.
Just following your social media, your thread, it's just to see you over there. Mickey belongs here, and this is his home, and I see you in the factory with the families. And just the craftsmanship and being with them, it melts me. I mean, it sounds a little bit kitschy, but I'm just like, I watch this and I'm like, these guys are doing such clever things, and it genuinely inspires us. So meet with this family, start bringing in shoes. How long after do you open up the Saba House in the East Village?
About 6 months.
Okay.
So that's the first way I sold the shoes was by having a party at my house. So that's, I always knew how to
never short of reasons to have a party.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. That was another one of the things I did well is I always gathered people.
Yeah.
And I love people. I like community.
Yeah.
I like to have a good time, and I like to bring people together and create an environment. And so, when I decided to start selling them, I thought, what's the way I know how to do this? Well, I'll have a party and invite everybody I ever met. And we started selling shoes. And my friend that day told me, I don't think you're going to sell very many of these. But we sold 40 pairs on the first day. So that was a pretty big deal for me.
And I've seen the gatherings that you've done, and you had a subsequent Saba House on an upper floor down here, right?
Somewhere? Right, on Bleecker Street.
On Bleecker Street. You have musicians playing there, you have artists, in residence artists. Yeah. I mean, the things that you do.
We just had an Argentinian grill outside. We do it now on Crosby Street. It's interesting now because our parties are public.
Yeah. So I've seen your gatherings outside. Okay.
Anybody's welcome. And so it's an interesting dynamic, but it's fun now that we can interact with a broader audience and still create the vibe we want.
And that being said, being in New York, I think you have people coming here from all over the world. We're not in a rural part of the country. People come to New York, and this is often the first place they land. So to me, people are walking by in the street, and this young lady's from Japan and from Argentina, and this gentleman's from Germany, and they're all coming, and it's like your tentacles go out and touch these people, and I think that's fascinating. I mean, Mickey, you can't be a fan of Saba and not be drawn to the sense of community, as you mentioned before. The houses, the Saba houses. I think you have New York, you have San Fran,
Dallas,
Dallas, London,
and
and
Long Island, Amagansett.
Long Island.
And soon Austin. We're opening Austin in 3 weeks.
I mean, I was going to be asking you
Damn.
where to next.
Okay.
But the where to next, Howie Saba, the colorways. I mean, just like looking at the way this is curated is just outstanding. Help me understand a little bit. Like, where do you draw your inspiration? Because one of the reasons we're here is because you're inspiring us. What's the root of your inspiration? Where is that coming from? The colors, the sense of community. Is it, the way where you're brought up? You're brought up in Texas.
The majority of Saba is about people. I think we make great shoes, and I'm very passionate about the shoes we make, and have learned to become passionate about that. But it really started with people and a love for people. And when I started the business and I would sell the shoes in my house, you couldn't buy a pair of shoes without hearing the story of all the shoemakers, because to me that was more interesting than the shoes themselves, and the story of the craft and the history of the craft. And when we first started, you could only buy the shoes in person or over the phone. We didn't sell them online for the first 3 years.
I actually remember that. That's when
You
we
had to
initially
come and
met.
meet me.
You're asking me, how did you do your website?
Right.
We were talking about you're building your e-commerce
Right.
platform at the time. This is telling you how far back we're going. So it was about you and being able to articulate that story and share your experience
and get to meet people
Yeah.
and get to connect. And I found that to be very fun.
Oh,
And I think we say that our store here is like it's a modern caravanserai, and a caravanserai was a concept along the Silk Road where when people were trading, it was a place they could stop and find respite, they could find community, they could trade, they could recharge, they could share tips and ideas and swap stories and meet people and mingle. And so our Saba, if you look at our store, it's at least 50% just seating for anybody to come sit. And when it's open during the day, they're seating outside, and all kinds of people are sitting there all day long. And so we've tried to create a place that's generous and hospitable. And I really think about our businesses. I'm moved by hospitality and service. And I think commerce, when it's done with a lot of care and energy and attention to detail, and when you really don't treat everyone like a transaction, but a relationship, it's quite uplifting.
Yeah.
And I think we've lost a lot of that in the way commerce is being done now. It's been highly venture capitalized. It's been highly metriced. And I think it's lost a lot of its soul. So one of the things I'm inspired by is like, how do we bring the soul back to that? And I'm really moved by a lot of restaurants and hotels and hospitality ventures where they've been there for 30 years. And every time you go in there, you feel welcome and you feel positive. And I think that can be done in retail too.
You're coming up on your 10-year anniversary, as you've suggested. A lot of energy, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I've seen you. You're all over the world. You're all over the country. Has it been worth it for you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's an interesting question. Has it been worth it? There's a lot of ways you can answer that. I probably could have made more money in working in some other field. I don't think you get into business. I mean, you get into business to make money, but you don't do it for the ease of making money. You do it because you're passionate.
Yeah.
And I think having a business, employing people, having the opportunity to put yourself out there like this, that's a really rare experience. And I think the responsibility and relevance and the feeling of connection you get is pretty unmatched. And it's been incredible.
Looking at your social media, looking at all the content you guys put out there, I can't help but capture the sentiment that you are there with a lot of your customers in their most profound moments. I've seen pictures of, two fellows getting married, honeymoon, vacation, birth, first day of work.
Saba's in the delivery room. A lot of Saba's in the
delivery room. Like, Mickey, these transformations,
graduation,
these first day of jobs, first day of school. I mean, we can go on. I mean, it's every experience that people live and breathe for. These experiences that when you are, you're breathing your last breath, that's what you think back to.
Right.
How does it feel? You're there with them, and we talk as a brand about we want to take you there. When you go, we want to be the brand that takes you there, but you're with them. We're not in the ER. We're not walking down the aisle at the wedding.
I think it's an honor for us. It's meaningful and it's fun. It's fun to have people share those stories, and for a pair of shoes I think people buy their Sabas. They initially fit snug. They form to their feet. They become truly like a part of them, almost like a second skin. And so, that's a significant thing to be able to participate in someone's life at such a level. and it's an honor. And I think for me, what's most important is that Sabas are for everyone, and they're for all types of situations, and people get a lot of value out of them. And I think it's important when you create a business to be trying to create value for other people, not just extract value. And so, I mean, with what you do, you know, when someone buys one of your bikes, you're creating a lot of value for their life. Of course, you're getting something in return as a business, but you're selling someone something that really uplifts their life and makes it better. And I'd like to think Sabas do the same, and that people get more value than we take from them. And I think that's what creates a really great business.
You mentioned Austin, the Saba houses. What can we expect next? Any tips? Any inside information?
Nothing confirmed, but things we're thinking about are continue. We released a guide to New York in a physical form, and it's been really fun. And I think we're talking a lot about creating a physical, tangible product that you can read and consume. That's Saba.
Yeah.
Kind of a magazine of sorts. And we're creating so much content, and we're telling so many stories, and we're sharing so much. And a lot of it's not just like, here's a pair of shoes to buy, but a lot of stories and guides and travel, and so the ability to take that and make it tangible. And then hopefully one day we'll open a hotel. That's my goal.
True hospitality.
Yeah, true
You're
hospitality.
going from a Saba store to a true hotel.
And a backgammon club.
Just
for you.
I'm in on the backgammon club. I'm in on the backgammon club. You may be disappointed if I beat you, but we'll sort that after. Think back just about 10 years ago, Saba House in the East Village is opening up. If you could get the bat phone and call Mickey the day that Saba House is opening, what would you say to him about what he's about to embark on, this journey he's about to take for the next 10 years, these people he's about to meet, this community, the Saba community where people are meeting to get married over their Sabas? Like, what would you say to Mickey at that point in time?
I would say, I think 3 things. The last one's the least sexy. First, trust yourself, and believe in your value, like lean into your values. I think in the beginning, you get very caught up. Everybody's asking you, how are you going to scale? What's your vision? What are your goals? How you
a lot of rhetoric.
There's a lot of rhetoric. There's a lot of these conversations, and I used to get very intimidated by them. And I've learned, I don't even have an answer for those questions. To me, it's about values. Hold your values true, and then just go, and the rest takes care of itself. So I would remind myself of that. The second thing is take it slow.
Okay.
Don't get caught up in the race. Really take it slow. And the third piece of advice, just very practical, is have great books.
Good books.
Have great books. I don't think we've even kept our books for the first 3 years, barely. So it's.
You mean financial books?
Financial books.
Oh, I'm thinking a book to read. Financial books.
No.
Have a good bookkeeper and keep good books.
Have a good bookkeeper and keep very tight books, and really, really understand your business from that perspective. It's A, important, and B, it's much more fun to run a business when you're measuring it and you really understand it, and that actually puts a little sport into it in a fun way.
It's interesting. I mean, if I think back to when I started the company, right around the same time, 2011, the story I always say is for the first few years, I created a very poor paying job for myself.
Right.
I was probably making $3 or $4 an hour if you take the time I was putting in. But again, it wasn't necessarily about the economics. It was about this giving more than I'm receiving. And then over time, it's obviously built up to something. And now for us, it's on a global level, much like yourself. But that's fascinating. How about for other people? If you had to speak to someone walks into the store and they're like, man, I love what you've built here, Mickey. You're the founder. I mean, I want to start this company to do X, Y, Z. Anything would you share that similar advice, or anything else you might share to someone just about to embark on this? This is before you're talking to Mickey. Now you're talking to any entrepreneur out there who's considering to start a company. Anything you might suggest to them?
I think I would suggest 2 things. One, and this is like kind of cheesy, but like you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Like the difference between having started a company and not having started a company is just the act of starting it. And I think
across the street.
Yeah, you got to just start at some point and try and recognize that a lot of things aren't going to go well, but you just got to keep trying and keep pushing. We pushed down so many paths in the first few years. Yeah. Most of which closed, and then one of them opens. You try wholesale, you try partnerships, you try pop-ups, we tried so many things that didn't work, and then the few that work, you just keep going. And then the second piece is a lot of crumbs make a cake. I think
that. A lot of crumbs make a cake. I like
right?
that.
Like I think that's the phrase. I don't know if that's how you say it.
But that's the phrase. We're going with it. That's the phrase.
But I think you can get real caught up in like wanting the moonshot. Like, how do we go from 0 to 1 million, like with one act? But it's really like it's a lot of little transactions every day that get you to the $1 million mark or whatever mark you're aiming for. It's a lot of phone calls and emails and just work, like one thing at a time.
Mickey is loving this conversation. I don't want to leave the house, but obviously we're a bike manufacturer. So, 2 questions bike related. I mean, Sabahs are taking you there. Sabahs are with people all the time on their feet. We're underneath, we're their steed underneath their bottom, taking them places. If you could go on a ride, I believe you ride a Driggs, but if you could go on a ride with anybody, living or dead, who would that individual be, and why would you pick them?
Good question. So there's a lot of answers, but I'm going to root my answer in business. So I would go on a ride with Hamdi Ulukaya, who founded Chobani.
Okay.
I had the chance to meet him once.
Upstate New York.
Upstate New York. His office is actually down the street, so maybe one day we could even actually go on a ride. I met him once briefly, and I've heard him speak a few times, and I think he's very inspiring. I really like the way he's built his business.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of questions I'd ask him, and that'd be a good opportunity.
He's a
really inspiring guy.
It's a captivating moment. It's a captive audience.
Yeah, captive audience. He has no choice. He's got to answer all my questions.
Yeah.
I don't think he has any questions for me.
And then the second question is, I know you ride a Driggs, one of our signature models. You've ridden for quite a while. What about the Driggs? What drew you to that model? Why is that your steed?
First, style.
Okay.
The double barrel bike, the look, it's classic. When I ride that bike, people ask me about it all the time. That's one. 2, with the color, I have the green. It's like green. An olive army green, and it's just a really special color. Also, I don't mind spending money on things, but I always like to get value. And that bike is like the perfect combination of quality for value. Kind of what we talked about earlier, you're definitely getting more out of it than you're paying for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really awesome thing.
Excellent.
And I also, I ride my bike in lots of different ways. Like I've ridden that bike. One time I rode it from my house in Amagansett all the way to Shelter Island and back. I ride it around the city. I've ridden it across. I rode that bike from Mattituck to Montauk once, 55 miles in one day. I drank some wine and ate oysters along the way.
I made it.
My buddy was riding like the same bike Lance Armstrong rides. So he was like, I was, cruising, but I found it to be really versatile, great style.
Love it.
And just an awesome bike. And I've never had an issue with it. I've never even had to have it maintenance. I probably should.
I would encourage you to get it maintenance once in a while. But anyway,
but that's a testament.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, Mickey, everything about your brand, everything about this conversation, just like further signifies why we love Saba. So I appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. I love this, and I think now I'm going to take a few minutes and beat you in backgammon.
All right,
let's do it.
Thanks, Ryan.
That was awesome.
That was fun.